3.5 years in the making. We're back here for round 2, and it's funny, we were talking earlier about last time we had a conversation similar to this about business and relationship, and specifically your business, because so much has happened since then. So I think it probably would be a really, really good open to this conversation to talk about some of the things that's happened in respect to SASH Beds in the last 3.5 years, and also your growth and your development through that time. That'd be really, really good.
Just sum it up really quickly.
No, I don't think this will be a short conversation. So let's not rush. Let's take it chunk by chunk and go through it all. Yeah. So I think we said last we spoke, you were just about to place an order of stock for the brand in preparation for launch. I think we were sitting in my office in Broadbeach at the time, and I was full of ego and a lot of other stupid things. And I feel like you were in that preparation stage of about to launch the business. So maybe just paint a bit of a picture of what was going on at that time, and then let's maybe chunk forward over the last 3-ish years.
Yeah, for sure. I laughed when you said full of ego, because I feel like you almost need a little bit of that right at the beginning of business, just thinking that I'm the best, I can do this. And I think business just teaches you otherwise. So going back to, 3.5 years ago, I feel like in these last three years, I've changed the most than I ever have before. It's pretty crazy reflecting. I think that's not what I do often, but when I reflect, I'm like, wow, I'm actually kind of proud of myself. But yeah, take it back to the last podcast. So I think I was really nervous placing my first order. I think it was like a 10K order. Was so scared. I thought it was the end of the world. I didn't actually end up placing the order that day. And gosh, I went on a journey. So I think I worked with my supplier for about 6 to 8 months, made this amazing bed. They kind of kept deflecting on what the price was. And I was like, hey, I need to place the order today. Like I said, I was going to launch in, it might have been like a month or two. And then when they gave me the price, I'm like, oh my God, I can't afford that. Like, I'm going to make no money. I'm actually going to be losing money. I was so upset. I almost felt like I had to start again. I'm like, there's no way I can do that. And the supplier just would not budge. They're like, nope, this is our price. We can't give it to you for any cheaper. And I'm like, that's the price as if I was buying it in Australia. So I had to actually move the launch, which at the time I thought it was going to be the worst thing for the brand. But looking back, I'm like, it really made no difference. I don't think anyone knew who SASH Beds was at that time.
Isn't it funny how you have the idea that everyone's eyes are on you, everyone knows you?
Yep. And it's like, even now I'm like, it's a much bigger brand, but I'm like, hardly anyone still knows it when you really think about it. But yeah. So I had to find another supplier, and I'm like, oh my God, is it going to take 8 months? Which it didn't. I think I was able to really, really speed that up, find a really, really great supplier. I think it only took a month.
Yeah. I remember that second time, it was so quick. And
I think I just learnt a lot. I knew how to fast track it.
Yeah.
And then, placed the order. So, gosh, it's so cool thinking back to it. But placed an order of 500 beds, massive 20-foot container. I remember when it came, I was trying to think of where do I put this container? How do we even empty it? And then my brother was like, I know a friend that has a piece of land, and you can just drop it there. So we dropped it on this random piece of land in Sovereign Island. I'm like, wow, this container has a better view than my house does. And then I remember you, me, my dad and brother, we just all emptied that container. The 500 beds filled every single room in my house. Full of beds. Even our whole living room had beds. It almost it looked like cubes of just, I'm not going to say, but it just looked really, really sus. Yeah. And then I remember, I feel like you were so supportive throughout it all, but I remember you being like, whoa, what actually happens if you don't sell these beds? Yeah. Because there was a lot.
You didn't do any pre-sale or anything. It was literally just
no, I think I had this little small email list where I'm like, oh my God, they're all just going to buy and I'm going to sell out within a day.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really good to have that attitude when you're first starting though. I really, really do. But yeah, I remember you said that to me, and I'm much more pessimistic than you are. I feel like you're the optimistic.
That's a diplomatic way of saying it.
I was like, should I say realist? I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna say how it is. And then I remember even just saying to you, like, believe it or not, that has not even crossed my mind. Like, I have not thought, what happens if you don't sell these beds? I just really had the belief, like, I'm going to make it happen no matter what. And I remember launching, thinking, I'm going to sell out everything. Kind of like you hear all these brands, it's like, I launched and I made all this.
Rocket ship,
And then, unfortunately, it was crickets. I'm like, why is no one buying these beds? I mean, I somewhat hyped it up.
Was there some sales when you first launched?
There was, but definitely not what I thought. I think maybe in the first day, like, I sold 4 or 5.
Yeah, wow.
Versus the 500 at home.
and then so it was like 4 or 5 sales in the first launch, and then the first week or so, how was it after that?
It was slow. I think, I didn't know much about Facebook ads like I do now and how important it is. But it was just slow. And I think that was the first time I really, really doubted myself. I'm like, my God, I failed. Like, how, I think that's almost the most important part in the business. Like, the launch, it's funny, you put all this effort and work into it and you think, once I launch it, that's the easy part. Like, it's just going to sell. And you don't really think about, like, how do I actually sell a product? Like, what do I have to do? It was pretty slow. I mean, it still made somewhat sales, and I think it still ended up doing what I wanted it to after a few weeks, but it definitely was a slow burn to begin with. And then I learned a lot in that month, and I think it was the second month it really just started to take off.
And what happened? Because I remember you were working with one of the marketing guys on my team at the time to run the ads and stuff like that. And what was the change? I remember there was some changes you made in relation to content or something like that.
I think honestly the biggest change was UGC content, like user generated content. Because
you had all this really flash and really beautiful. Professional imagery, I remember.
I had did all the photo shoots, had the most beautiful images, videos, and I'm like, why are they not converting? Like, what? These are stunning. And then I remember I was sent to a few influencers at the time, and they created some okay content, and I'm like, I just may as well put it and run it as an ad. And then I took some photos even at home of like comparing the bed to a competitor's bed. Took the photo, thought nothing of it. I'm like, look, let's just put it out there. And then I'm like, whoa. The business honestly felt like it just changed overnight. And I'm like, right, now I understand content and what UGC is and what all these people are talking about. And then, after I think it was 2 to 3 months, I ended up selling everything. All
the stock?
Yep, every single thing. And I'm like, whoa.
Was it that quick, 2 to 3 months?
It was pretty cool.
Wow, that's amazing. What did it teach you about the UGC content side? More so along the perspective of like, I guess like how easy it can be, because like you said, like you just picked up your phone, took some photos of like the beds, for example, next to each other, and then just ran that as an ad.
Yeah.
So what did it teach you about, like, I don't know, needing to maybe go through these great lengths to produce like incredible quality content versus maybe just being like snap, face to cam, like shooting content from your phone?
I think you taught me you can save a shitload of money and not have to. I mean, like, look, I think that the beautiful images do play a big part, especially on a website. But in terms of ads, I think it honestly just taught me like it's so much easier than you would expect. I'm
curious because like you went through massive confidence. This is definitely going to make it. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Super, maybe over ambitious with like, let's just buy the container, let's just fill the whole house up with beds, and not even potentially doubt or do anything at all. There was no like really like risk prevention strategy. It was just like all in. Then launch happened, and there was like, not many sales, massive doubt. I failed, and then like maybe 10 weeks later, you were sold out of beds.
Yeah.
So like I guess like just from like a mindset experience perspective, what were some of the things that you learned through that time? And how did you feel, I guess, after that 3 months? Like, what was like, okay, now I'm standing here and I've got no stock left. I'm completely sold out. Like, how was that?
I mean, it was really, really scary to be completely sold out. But then one massive thing I learned at the time is like, wow, this builds so much hype. because then being on the pre-sale and like showing people, hey, it's sold out. I feel like that also was like a gift in itself. I mean, I thought it was really bad being like, I don't have stock. How do I get it in so quickly? But it ended up being like one of the best things for the business as well. So that was really, really cool. I feel like everything that ended up happening, even though at the time I would think it was so bad, it ended up teaching me something so incredible. But I think in those first few months, like you really, really do grow. When you first start a business, I feel like you're just so naive, and that plays a part in itself. I think it's great at the beginning, but if you were to stay naive, I don't think you'd be able to scale the business at all. No, I think you'd be like, whoa, this is so much harder than I expected. I think the weirdest thing there was like two phrases I still do tell myself, like, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah.
But then also at the same time, I would think, which is kind of doesn't really make sense with the first one, is like, it's so difficult, but at the same time, it's so easy.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. I really don't. I'm like, I think this day and age, like, it's the easiest time ever to make money.
Yeah.
But then it also, if it was easy, why is everyone not doing it?
It's an interesting kind of like dichotomy between like it actually being physically easier than ever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's still like the 1% of the 1% that make all the money, or whatever those statistics are. But yeah, very interesting. And then so you sold out of all of your beds at that time, and what happened after that? Like, what was the next stage of?
I think this is where it starts to get really exciting.
Yeah.
So I remember, I think it was honestly that time period, like within the first 3 months, we were at. It was around your birthday. I do remember. Yeah, we were at a friend's birthday dinner, and one of my friends was talking about this business, and she's like, "Oh, have you heard of Mad Paws?" I'm like, "No, I've never heard of it. What is it?" And she's like, "I just invested some money into it. It's this public company. They're such a cool company." I'm like, "What?" Like, it was also to do with dogs,
right.
And I'm like, "What is it?" And she's like, "It's like a pet sitting app. So you can have pets at your house, and you can take care of them, or you can go to someone's house and take care of the pets. It's almost like an Airbnb, but for pet sitting." I'm like, that sounds epic. And one of my friends, actually, she bought a SASH bed, and she kept posting like a different dog every day. I'm like, why do you have so many dogs at your house? And she was actually using Mad Paws. And she's like, I'm pet sitting and I'm making some money on the side. I'm like, that is so, so cool. What a great idea. And at the dinner, my friend was kind of telling me about it. She's like, you should invest some money into it, which also I didn't know how to invest money into a business. Like I had no idea, but I'm like, that just sounds really cool. And then something just got in my head, and I'm like, I am going to do a collaboration with them. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel it, and I'm going to collaborate with Mad Paws. She's like, yeah, like I believe in SASH Beds, but like that's a bit far-fetched. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Because at the time, they were the biggest marketplace in Australia for pets. So then I did a bit of research. I'm like, who's the CEO of Mad Paws? So I reached out to him, and I'm like,
the girl's best strength, researching and investigating.
Yeah, finding anyone on social media. I reached out to him, and I'm like, hey, let's do a collaboration, like SASH Beds and Mad Paws. And he got back to me, and he's like, let's jump on a call. I'm like, oh gosh, okay. I haven't actually thought this far ahead, but okay, let's do it. And then I remember even saying to you, like, can you jump on this call? Can you jump on this call? You're like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I'm really, really nervous. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. And I mean, I somewhat did, but like, didn't really think too far ahead. Just knew something was going to happen. Yeah. So the call went really well. We were just talking about the brands, and I feel like we were just really aligned on like where we wanted to take the companies. And then the second call happened because there's two CEOs in Mad Paws. Then the second call happened with the other CEO, and I'm like, this is really getting somewhere. Yeah. Like in my head, I thought we're going to do some sort of collaboration. Like they're going to probably promote SASH Beds to their database, and it will look something like that. And then I remember it being in the second or third call where they're like, okay, Nejra, we love the brand. We want to do something with it. We want to buy the whole business. And then I just remember being like, wait, what? Buy it? And in my head, the first thought was like, no way, I'm not giving away SASH Beds. Yeah. But then I'm like, okay, just listen to what they're going to say. And they're like, we obviously want you to stay in the company. It's not like we're just going to buy it. It's not going to be yours. We want you to grow it. And my vision for SASH Beds was to be the number one in Australia and then eventually the world. And I'm like, how often does this happen? How often does and say this would have been 4 or 5 months in, I'm like, how often does this huge public company come in and say, we just want to buy it and we want you to stay in it? We have the resources, we have the capital, we have everything. We're going to support you and your vision. And I'm like, oh, this is my baby and these people believe in it. It was mind blowing.
Yeah.
So then, I think I went away from it and you were like, this is an epic opportunity. You should do it. And it felt really, really right.
Yeah.
And it ended up happening. So they ended up acquiring SASH Beds, a little baby business.
Yeah. And how long was that into when you started, from when you started to when it was kind of acquired?
I mean, the conversation happened within 3 to 4 months of launching, but then the whole process of your business being acquired takes a long, long time. So I think it ended up being maybe 8 to 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was happening right around the time where the business closure took place in terms of the deal was closed?
Wow. I think we were like, okay, this might take about 2 to 3 months. And we were going away to get married in Hamilton Island. I think it was around November. And the business literally, so we went to Hamilton Island a few days before to relax. And the business was...
Yes, to relax. Yes.
Oh my gosh. The business was bought the day before we went away to get married. Yeah. Actually, the night before at 10 o'clock at night. It was so stressful. I'm packing away. It's meant to be such a beautiful time. We're going away to get married. I should be thinking about that. I'm not thinking about that at all. They're calling me at... I have to mention this story because it's so good.
You have to.
And they're calling me at 10 o'clock at night. They're like, okay, we bought the business. Congratulations. And I'm like... it sounds amazing, but it is quite stressful. And then I remember when they bought it, I'm like, oh, Sasha, I didn't receive the funds. And you're like, well, you're not going to receive them straight away. And I'm like, no. I just have a feeling something happened. And then you're like, you're just overthinking it. You have so much on your mind. I'm like, no, something happened. So I go in and I check the bank details I sent them. And I'm like, I sent them the wrong bank details. They're like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yes, I did. I sent them the wrong bank details. And I just remember crying at that point and being like, we're not going away to get married. I don't want to get married. Yeah. I couldn't think of anything worse right now. And you're like, call them. And I'm like, can you please call them? Can you actually call them and tell them? I'm like, they're going to be thinking, who did we just get into business with? She can't even send the right bank details. And then I remember calling one of the founders, Alexis. I'm like, hey, so, and he's like really pumped. He's like, we're going to be working together. I'm like, so I sent you the wrong bank details. And he's like,
that money that you sent me.
And he's like, did you not copy and paste it? I'm like, clearly not, just clearly not. And then, thank God he was so level-headed. He's like, it's okay. I think it was the BSB that was wrong, not the account number. I believe if it was the account number and it was the last few digits, see you later.
Harder, yeah.
It ended up being fine, but just that extra stress. And then I just remember saying to him, so can you not tell the other CEO and CFO?
Or anyone in the team.
And he's like, I kind of have to. And I'm like, they're just going to be thinking what did we do? Which they did not. Yeah. I think they just knew how much I had on at the time, trying to plan a wedding, trying to sell the business. But yeah, that was wild. I'm saying it now it was a pleasant time, but at the time, it just felt like the world was crumbling just a little.
And you can laugh about it so easy now, but I remember in the moment it was freak out, frantic, kind of intense.
I remember calling my mum, being like, come over, I can't do this. Should we even go away to get married? She's like, calm down. Yeah. It's okay.
How do you think, just on that point, pausing for a second, how do you think you have developed the ability to better cope with stress? Because I think that's something that's very common through, I don't know, any life in general, but definitely in business, and there's varying degrees of problems, I think, but how you respond to problems always remains the same. Even if it's a small problem or a big problem, it's do I freak out and then solve it, or do I rationalize, like you know what I mean? So how do you think you've maybe developed a better process of dealing with problems and stress, or maybe like not developed a process? I don't know. Like, how do you think?
I have.
I hope so.
I mean, I think when you deal with such high stress, you end up becoming a bit more immune to it. And then you also realize like it's going to be fine. Not at the time, obviously you don't think that. I mean, I do somewhat now, but everything that I ended up, like every loophole I had to go through, it ended up being fine.
Yeah.
Like it really, really did. So I think trying your best at the time just to think about like, is this really going to matter in a month or 2 or 3 or in a year? Am I even going to remember it? Even with that bank thing, like I remember Alexis being like, this is going to make an epic story one day. And I'm like, yeah, it actually has. Like, what a story. Even though at the time you're not like, this is going to be an epic story, like all of this thing's going wrong. But I think just the more problems you have, you just end up getting better at problem solving. And then the small things, you're like, I don't even have the capacity to think about this. Like, it's just so small. But yeah, I think that's how I've coped with it. I mean, mind you, sometimes I still don't cope the best.
We have our moments.
We do. I do. I think you're much more level-headed.
Essentially, yeah.
But yeah, I would almost say like with people that aren't good with stress, get more stress, get bigger problems.
That's a really, really good point. I want to inquire about the identity aspect, because so you went from essentially, not working in any business, working like a 9 to 5 and, doing that for most of your life, then to owning like a 6 and then 7 figure and growing rapidly business inside of this organization with all of these like high flying executives and CEOs and leaders of like massive companies. So like, how was that shift for you? Because you had to very quickly adapt to like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just messed up the bank wire details. Like, am I supposed to be here? Like all the self-doubt, all the kind of like, self-sabotage and maybe like imposter syndrome. Like what was that like in terms of going from the 9 to 5 into this, high flying organization?
I think the imposter syndrome was the biggest thing. I think when I rapidly learnt the most was when the business was acquired. That was so brutal in the best way possible.
Let's talk about some things that happened where if you're comfortable to give some examples.
I mean, like I love talking about it now. At the time, I probably would have never admitted to it. But yeah, when it was acquired, I just remember, I think they just spoke to me like, yeah, she knows everything. She runs a business. Like they probably weren't thinking, hey, just 7 to 9 months ago, she was a dental assistant and had absolutely no idea about anything. And we rapidly scaled when they acquired the business. So just the terminology and how they were speaking to me, like I honestly did not understand 50% of it. I remember being in meetings and just writing, like just smiling and writing down all these things that they were saying, or there would be meetings where I was just so overwhelmed, I would just exit the meeting and then like come back, try to like take a few deep breaths and come back on and be like, sorry, my internet cut out. What was that? So many times. I remember when the business was acquired, they were like a few days after, they're like, okay, so we're doing our OKRs. And I'm like, what is an OKR? What? They're like, you have to present it for the quarter. You're going to be like present it in front of 80 people. And I'm like, I've never presented in front of anyone. I don't even know what objective key result is. Now I do, but just so many things. I remember being so uncomfortable, thinking like, I honestly cannot do this. I felt the smallest person in the room, but the amount of things I learned looking back, I'm like, I loved it. I really, really did. It was so challenging. And I didn't realize how much I learned until I kind of got out of it. Yeah. Because when you're in it and you're comparing yourself to these people that have had years of experience, launched and sold massive, massive companies, you're just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But then I think I kept telling myself, like, if I had no idea, why would they have bought the business? They clearly saw potential, yes, in the business, but also in myself. Yeah. Like to buy a business that, sure, it was doing good at the time, but it was so risky for them. Like it didn't really have a great track record because it was only operating for that. It was just me. Like when they bought it, I was customer service. I was the marketing team. Yeah. I was packing. I was doing everything. Finance, and when they bought it, that's when it went into the warehouse. I even remember when we were away for the wedding, I think it was the day before the wedding, and they're calling me. They're like, because the stuff had to get from my house to the warehouse, so from the Gold Coast to Melbourne, they're like, there's something wrong. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was just, yeah. But I think going back to what you asked me now, I've kind of went off track. Yeah,
that's fine. I think there's a really key point here because like it's really, really challenging to number one, to even like take the risk of doing something. Number two, to be in like, I guess like the saddle, so to speak, or sit in the seat of that like massive exposure of like stress and overwhelm and being like, I'm so uncomfortable. Like everybody around me is better than me, you know? And so I guess maybe just like a bit of advice on like how to deal with that, because like ultimately from an exposure perspective, the more that you expose yourself to situations like that, the quicker you'll grow.
Yeah.
It's just insanely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, so like what would be maybe some ideas that you might give to somebody to be like, hey, if you want to level up quick, try and expose yourself. Like how could you maybe like...
I think just throw yourself in the deep end. Like I almost feel like when I was just so overwhelmed and I'm like, if I knew all this, would I have done it? I mean, looking back now, yes. But at the time I would have been like, no way. It was so hard. I would not have. So it's kind of like throw yourself in the deep end where you cannot go back.
But you can't. You
just have no choice. And that's where you will grow the most. And sure, at the time it's going to feel, you're going to feel stupid. You're going to feel like you don't know anything. But that's where the magic happens. And I'm almost like, now I'm almost craving that. It's funny because I'm like, I've learned what I've learned. I want to level up. Like how do I throw myself in the deep end now? Because I want to be around people that can teach me how to take myself to the next level. I want to feel uncomfortable. It's funny when you're in that, you hate it. But when you're out of that, you crave it.
And it's interesting because you like, when you say you crave it, like you think you crave it but you don't crave it, you crave the outcome.
Yes.
Right. And it's like, if you were to be thrown back into it, you'd be like, fuck this, I can't do it.
For sure.
You know, but then you just stick with it and then you're like, oh,
give yourself no choice.
This is actually good.
That's why. So like when I said yes to them buying it, like, I mean, I felt like I thought about it. I'm like, oh, it sounds like a great idea, but I probably didn't know all the things I had to do. Yeah. And I'm almost glad I didn't.
They also were like, I wouldn't say vague, but they didn't exactly have like a clear like day in the life of Nejra.
Which I'm glad they didn't, because if they told me, hey, you're going to present to 80 people and you're going to do this and this, I would have been like, no, thank you.
I remember those presentations and you'd come into my office and you'd be like, look, if they told me that I would be doing presenting, I would have said fucking no to the deal. Absolutely no way.
I think that was the hardest thing. And I'm like, yeah, something I definitely have somewhat overcome.
Yeah, I think you're brilliant at communicating, and you do it really well, despite like maybe the fear around it. So what happened from there? Like you wrapped up this acquisition, or like I guess they've acquired you. You rolled into Mad Paws. You're way in over your head, and you're thriving, but like, you know, pedaling like a little duck underwater with its legs, going really fast. What happened next? Like what was the next kind of?
So I mean, when they acquired it, because the business was actually quite seasonal at the time, which we didn't know, because like it wasn't even a year. So the business was very seasonal towards winter because the bed was very warm. So when they acquired it, it was summertime. And I remember the first few months, like sales were really, really slow. And I just remember me thinking like, damn, what are they thinking? Like they bought it and it's slow, and like what's happened to the business? And then we're going through different agencies, and I think we were just trying to also figure it out. Like they were, because they were a service-based business, and this was e-commerce, which is a little bit different. Yeah. And I think we were honestly just trying to figure it out. I mean, there was incredible people on there, on the team, but I think then like launching new products, that really, really took the business to a next level. Really dialing in on marketing. And just putting some structure into the business. Like I said, it was me. It was, I was doing everything. And then it was like, hey, how do we actually like grow this and have people come in and not have me do everything? Because it's super, super reliant on me, which is a massive risk as well. But yeah, I think we ended up launching new products, which was fun within itself. But then it just really, and then by that time, I think we hit winter time and the business just really, really started to excel, bringing on much more team members, and it was incredible. I think the massive thing with SASH Beds, the impressive thing, I mean, there was so many things, but the influencer aspect, that blew off like crazy. I mean, we've had the biggest influencers in Australia post with no marketing spend, never have paid an influencer. I think we ended up only doing 2 paid collaborations, and that was after we first tested them for free. And these are like the biggest influencers like Delta Goodrum, Ruby Rose. There ended up being a point where like we had maybe 20 to 30 influencers posting weekly with like 500K followers, 600K, 800K, millions and millions. It was so funny at the time. I was like, another one. And then you just become immune to it. And you're like, oh yeah, another one.
Another 6 million followers.
Yeah. Now how do I get someone with 20 million, 50 million, 100 mil? But that really, really excelled just because of like the way we positioned the brand, because I mean, some context on SASH Beds as well. So I think when I first started it, there was so many dog companies out there, but I was like, there's nothing that's like a lifestyle company. True. Where, because sure, it's for the dog, but a human is buying it. Yeah. The human has to like it. It has to look really, really great in their house. And I just kept thinking like, how can I be the Louis Vuitton or the Coco Republic of dog beds? Yeah.
How did you have that insight though? Like that's an interesting thing to like, number one, like analyze first things first, and then be like, okay, so I'm going to do, maybe a similar product to what's in there, but like a lot better and differently, and actually brand it in a way that like is much more appealing. So how did you come to that?
I mean, conclusion? I think it really, really helps that I am the perfect target audience for SASH Beds, minus having the dog. I actually don't have a dog. I love them, but I don't have one. So I think I just was like, I'm going to launch something that I love. And
it's like you're hacking your own like psychology on it. Yeah.
And then I'm like, I love nice things. I really, really do. And it's also like, it's the way it makes me feel. I'm like, how can I make them like super proud of having this and create this almost like cult-like audience where it's like, we want to post this and we want people to know I have a SASH bed. Because when you buy a Louis Vuitton bag, it's the experience. You want people to be able to, like, you feel as though when you have that bag, you are a different person. Yeah. And then it's almost like the shoot with SASH Beds, I think the intention was like, I'm shooting this in such beautiful homes because I want people to subconsciously think like, if I have this bed, I am going to one day have this home. Yeah. And it's starting to create that.
Association.
Yeah, that association. And I think that's the way I thought about it. And then it ended up just exploding. And I think I really resonated with my customers. And it was just like second nature. I'm like, I know what they want. I am them. And then the dogs, gosh, they ended up loving them. People would be like, what are you putting in these beds? I'm like, I knew dogs would love them, but this obsession is crazy. And then the great thing about dogs is like everyone wants to put them on their social media. So it would be like stories 24/7. And then it just it's like a domino effect. It's just like exploded from there. And then the really cool thing is like when I first started, I actually also had traction from the get-go from influencers, but there was really big ones where they're like, we want payment for it. And I'm like, I can't afford that right now. And then it ended up being like all those influencers after a few years would come to SASH Beds and be like, hey, we just want a bed, no payment. And I'm like, how cool is this?
So good.
Yeah.
What were some of the hardest things to let go of? Because you went from doing all of the things yourself, all of the customer service, operations, shipping all the goods, zero reconciliation, everything, right? You did pretty much everything. And then, within a stage of 6 months, 12 months, et cetera, scaled up to a lot bigger levels, had different people in the team helping you. And I know that your standard of what you expect of people is very high. So what were some of the hardest things to let go of through that process?
Everything. Control. My God. I learned a lot about myself. Yep. I think different stages, but customer service was so hard to let go of. I think like that took, like you said, I was a perfectionist with everything, which is too hard to scale that way. I mean, I think we have incredible customer service, but I would just go above and beyond for customers. And it's like your baby. And if there was ever anyone unhappy, you're like, I need to make everyone happy. Which is like, it's impossible. Even if your product is the best thing, there will still be people that find something. Customer service, I think also just the marketing aspect and the branding. The branding part was so hard to let go of. And the social media. I ran the social media for 3 years because I couldn't let go of it, which I wouldn't advise. Like it took up so much of my time, but I was obsessed with it looking perfect. And I think like it had its time and place, and the business was amazing because of that. But also like how much attention it took away from me and other things I could have probably focused on. I think that was a massive part, and just talking to the customers myself. I think I struggled because I loved it. I really loved doing it. And I think a lot of people wouldn't have known like, hey, it's me, the founder, in there talking to you.
So true, actually. That's a very interesting point.
And I think that was a really, really difficult part. I did the product development myself, and like there was no one that took over that part. So that was a struggle to let go of because it was me. I think also it took me with some products, I think there should have been a bit more speed with it, but I was just a perfectionist on like the zipper, the stitching, everything had to be perfect. So I think that I could have probably eased a little bit on that. But I think also the brand exploded because of how much detail and love went into it as well.
Very true. It's interesting how, especially growing something or starting something new, like it's a reflection of you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like that brand, and especially your connection to that brand and how much like love you put into it, like was demonstrated in the market, and the response from like what people experienced when they were purchasing from it, enjoying the products, giving you feedback on the products. And I think that whole experience was quite tremendous.
For sure. But I think it also limited me because it made me think I have to do everything then. It's like, it's me. So
no one's good
enough. I have to put myself in every single part of it because only I understand it. So I think even though it was so amazing to think like everyone loves what my brain built, but then it's also like, how much of myself do I have to keep putting into it as well?
True. What was some of the most challenging times of it, like through the post Mad Paws acquisition onwards? Like, what were some of the things that really felt like you were like, I can't do this anymore?
A lot.
Yeah.
I think mostly things of myself, like personal stuff. Like, am I built for this? Do I know how to scale a business? Do I know how to take it from like when it was bought $30K a month to $100K, $200K, $3, $4 plus? So self-belief was a massive, massive thing. But I think, like I mentioned before, putting yourself in those situations and just having no option, being like, I just need to excel. There is no other choice. It's you versus you. Yeah. And I think also like some really big struggles were stock because we were just selling like crazy. We were on stock demand, pre-planning all of that. I think, gosh, that was so stressful. I remember Black Friday, one of our biggest Black Fridays. We sold out of everything, but then we were selling like stock that we didn't have, and like customers knew that.
Of course.
But then it was like the container coming in, we sold that container. Then the next container coming, we sold that one. And we would just keep selling everything. And then because of Christmas, the containers didn't come in time. Yeah. People wanted it for Christmas to give to their dogs. It was just like so messy. And I think I took everything so personally. Like any upset customer, I'm like, I'd let them down. I remember on Christmas Day being like, trying to get stock in. I'm like, what can I do for them? Like, I will physically go to China and get it myself. Like, what do I do? I think that was a big thing within itself. And then skills. I think just like somewhat what I mentioned just before, but upping my skill set. Because like I said, what you're doing at $30K a month versus like $400K a month, it's a very different skill set.
Yeah. What specifically, what were some of the skills that you had to learn through those transitions?
I think the biggest actually was people management.
Yeah.
Gosh, I struggled with that a lot, and how much I turned like from who I was as a manager from the beginning to who I am now. I really hope I've come a long way, but how I managed people, like, and how I spoke to them and how I thought things should be done and how I thought you should motivate people.
What was it like, if you give us some of the breakdowns of that, like what was the before and after in a nutshell, if you were to say like how did you kind of do it before, and then what was the finished product of maybe that?
I mean, I think maybe at the beginning I would come across almost like aggressive and being like, why don't you do this? And now it's like, right, you're meant to motivate them and bring them on the journey and like explain to them where you're going. And I think that really like completely just changed, which I thought like, because the way I used to operate the best is if I was scared of my boss. Not that I intentionally wanted them to be scared of me, but I used to just work so hard if I was scared, but I ended up still hating the boss and hating what I'm doing. But I would work at 100%.
That dentist that you'd come home crying from every single day and you were terrified from her.
Terrified.
But it worked well.
I thought it worked well. And it does, I think, in the short term.
Yeah.
But in the long term, it doesn't. You'd probably lose people. They won't like working for you. They're not going to work hard. And then I think I learned a lot from you as well. And a lot of people that like my managers in Mad Paws and the way they would communicate with me. And I'm like, I'm not scared of you, but I want to work really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is such a different management skill or operation. And I'm like, this is so much more efficient and effective. So I think I ended up taking them with me on the journey, and it completely changed how people were working. And I think the biggest thing is like I wanted to control everything. So I thought I was helping my staff with being so involved in every little thing. And then I think being more open to feedback and them telling us like, hey, even though it's really great, you knowing everything, like it's kind of making us think you don't trust us. And I'm like, I do. I thought you wanted me to be more involved. So
it's such an
putting
interesting,
more trust in your team.
Such an interesting thing, isn't it? Where you think that you're helping, but you're actually harming.
Exactly. Had no idea. And I honestly was like, my team's great. They love me. And then when they gave me some open feedback, which was the first time I got brutal feedback, like it really, really hurt. And I wanted to blame and be like, it's them. But then I was like, hold on. No, it's me. Like in this moment, I can be the victim and be like, it's them. I just want to get rid of them, and or be like, maybe I should change.
Yeah.
And then I did. And I think you really helped with that as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think just taking more accountability as a manager, even though sometimes it sucks because it's like, gosh, can I ever do anything right?
Yeah, it's a constant like a circle of accountability that you're just like, yes, I'll take that feedback. Yep. Yes, that's my fault.
Everything is our fault.
It's very much the case. And so from that point moving forward, like what's transpired since then? So you worked in the business in SASH Beds for how long was that in total?
I think it was about 2.5 years. 2 years, yeah.
And so what's happened? I guess what's that next kind of series of progression of events? What's happened? Yeah,
so we were able to tremendously scale the business, launch in the UK, have a warehouse in the UK, and I think we also want to launch worldwide, probably America next. But I also was kind of like, even though such a hard choice, probably actually this was a harder choice to make than selling the business. But I remember you being like, hey, come on my team. Like we have these other brands and I could really, really use you in the team. And I'm like, I could never leave SASH Beds.
Yeah.
So I think that decision took like 6 to 8 months if I wanted to leave, if I wanted to stay. But yeah.
Guys, never give up on what you want. It takes a long time.
A lot of persuasion. But yeah, I think that I was kind of like, I think I've served this business as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I've learned as much as I can. And I think it's time to let go. Like it's not mine anymore, even though I still, when I worked in it, acted like it was. But then I think I was like, hey, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not yours. You've done what you've wanted. You've taken it to where you could not have ever imagined taking it to. Like it was the best experience ever. But then I was like, on to different things, like working on something for our future and our brands. And yeah, it took a long, long time to decide that. And I was like, I've also learned these incredible skills that I could help your community with.
Yeah.
So yeah, ended up leaving SASH Beds a few months ago. It even now...
Was it February? February, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Very recently.
Yeah. And I mean, the team that I left the company with, I mean, they're incredible. They know the vision of it. They know where I would have loved to take it.
Yeah.
And yeah, came on to Ecom Capital, helping with some brands that helping scale the brands that we own as well, which has been a different skill set because it's almost like going back to the first few months of SASH Beds in a way.
Yeah.
So that's also challenged me. And that's kind of what's happened.
And what would you say? Like, I mean, like, say for example, you're maybe advising or talking to startup e-commerce, listeners or founders who are like in a position where they want to get to, like, ultimately, I think what you did with SASH Beds would be like the goal of like most people. Like, if I could build a brand and I can have it, in the hands of tens of thousands of Australian customers, UK customers, US, European, all those things, and then be seen by all the influencers in Australia. Like, that is like, and then everywhere you go, every conversation you have with every single person, oh my God, you're the founder of this company. Oh my, like, you were like a little micro celebrity in that space. Like, I observed it and I watched it and I was like, this is so impressive.
Well, SASH Beds was. I didn't really...
You didn't promote yourself too much.
No.
But I think as people found out that you were the founder, they're like, oh my God, I love that company.
It would be so cool going to like a party and then talking about it. They're like, I have a SASH Bed. Oh, she has a SASH Bed. Every girl here has a SASH Bed. I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted. This is incredible.
It's like the Tupperware party thing.
Yeah.
So I guess what would you advise, like, to someone in a position where they're like building something and they're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know, like, just they're in those early stages and they're really, really struggling. Like, you've been through a really, really impressive and powerful transformation in terms of what you've done. And I guess being in a position now to also be able to share some of the knowledge that you've accumulated inside of the communities and stuff like that, I think that is really noble of you as well. What would you say is like some advice or strategies or ways to maybe like walk in my footsteps, if that makes sense?
I mean, if I'm thinking back to when I first started, like, my goal wasn't to make like 400,000 a month.
What was the goal?
The goal wasn't actually money to begin with. It honestly wasn't. I think I said to you, I want to make 1,500 a week. Yeah. And you're like,
but what was it? What was the reason behind you wanting to?
I think I was just like, I want to make I don't even think I was making that as a dental assistant. Like, let's say I was even making 700 to 900. Yeah. So at that time, 1,500 a week to me was so much. Yeah. And I'm like, that's just what I want. And I want to keep it there. I really don't mind. And you're like,
I want nice. Yeah. You said, I want nice money.
Yeah. And then I want it to be easy.
Nice money.
And it seems like so nice to have this easy brand and make money. That's funny. Yeah. But I think like after a few weeks when it got there and then a few grand more and more, you ended up just wanting more, not for the sake of money. You're just like, oh, because I can. Yeah. It'd be a disservice to not continue to scale this. But at the beginning, I think really understanding like your intention behind it is a big thing. Is it money? And if it is, why? I think it's a little bit more than like, I just want cash. I just want this. Like, no, what's the reason why? Because I think it's so hard. You need to have like a big reason as to why you're doing this, because there is times where you just want to quit. You want to quit more than the bad times. There's more bad times than good.
Much more, much more, yeah.
So if you have, and I think my big why is like, look what I've done with this brand. Like, I want to make the Louis Vuitton of dog beds. No one's done it. I believe in my product so much. I love SASH Beds. It's almost like a person to me. Yeah. I've put my heart and soul into it. And all the times it was hard, I was like, I can't give up on my vision. I can't give up on it. So I think having your why is like a massive thing, because like then you're going to do whatever it takes. Because like I said, it isn't that easy. But at the same time, when you think, like, my biggest thing as well was like, I like in a way that it wasn't easy. I kept telling myself, I like that it's hard, because that means there's not going to be many people doing it. Yeah. So I don't have that much competition. So I think I'm trying to think of the word, it will come to me. But yeah, I think really, really having a passion for it helps. If you're coming into this for like, quick cash, it's not, you're just going to give up. Yeah. And I think another big one is because you hear of all these really, really success stories and they launch and they make so much money. But I don't think that's the case for many brands. Like, sure, if you're a massive influencer or if you're a celebrity, that's going to happen. Sure. But if you're an everyday person, like, don't get disheartened when it doesn't take off straight away. Like, you just have to learn a new skill set. Don't give up at that time, because most people give up at that time. And that's the time, like, if you push through consistency and stay at it, you're not going to fail. And then there is also aspects of, like, are you launching a product that just you like? Because if only you like it, doesn't mean everyone else will, unfortunately. I was so fortunate with SASH Beds that I loved it, and a lot of people loved it. But I did obviously market research before that. I knew other companies were killing it in the market. It's not as if I was just like, I have this idea, I like it, I'm going to launch. Definitely have to do some research beforehand. But yeah, I think some of those, I mean, there's so many more. But I think having a big why, because that why is going to push you through the hard times.
What about on the aspect of, like, skills, like because there's so many different skills that you need to learn. It's like obviously the content creation. There's, like, you know, knowing how to, like, communicate and manage people. There's, like, how do I don't know, pack and send and ship, logistics, and how do I develop product. Like, there's so many skills. So are there, you know, someone who's starting out, maybe they're making, you know, a few $1,000s a month for their product. Maybe they're yet to make sales with their product, and they're thinking of what to sell. Like, what would be maybe a handful of skills that you'd be like, look, these are really important to learn?
I mean, I think I was lucky that I had great people around me from the get-go, like yourself. I also had your team supporting me and teaching me how to do things as well. Like, I don't know if I would say, like, you need a mentor from the get-go, but you definitely need resources, whether that's whatever it may look like for you, but you can make so many mistakes. And if I didn't have those resources, I would have lost a lot of money. And there's different skills at different times. Like, I'm not saying go learn how to manage people and you haven't even launched a brand. Like, that comes later.
And you don't have any people.
Exactly. Like, there's different skills at different times. I love I love KISS, like, keep it simple, stupid, because if you overcomplicate things, like, it really is not that complicated. E-commerce is really, really not. And if it is, it's because you're overcomplicating it. Sure, when it's really big, it probably is because there's more people. But when it's just you, it's as simple as you make it out to be. And I think there's a few skills that you really need to be great at. And then there's other things that, like, you don't need to be the best at everything. But I think having a resource that can take you through, like, okay, this is what you do at this part, this is what you do next, because it kind of is like a step process. And it's like, some people, I speak to a few people I know, and they're like, I haven't launched, or I'm about to launch, but I'm also working on my new collection. And I'm like, wait, what? For SASH Beds, I didn't launch a new bed for a year. Like, I excelled at that bed. It became the best. And then I did. So, like, people are just really confused. They're overcomplicating things. They're losing money and time. And that's what really demotivates you as well. So I think having someone or something teaching you, like, do this at this time, at this time, at this time. And I was lucky enough that I really did have that, and I had the support. Sure, not everything went perfectly, and I don't expect, I think some people expect it too, but in those times that it doesn't, like, it's just teaching you something.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing inside of Ecom Capital as far as the stores and the community at the moment.
I think the reason I eventually came onto Ecom Capital with lots of persuasion, only because I really, really loved SASH Beds, my first baby. I really, really loved what we were doing, because I saw so much value in it. Like, if I had all of these resources, which I did, I was fortunate enough. But if I didn't have all these resources, like, could I have taken the business to where it was? Could I have done all those things? I'm not sure. Maybe I would have found a way, but it would have been so much more difficult. With these skills that I have, I really want to be able to teach people and talk about my journey and help. I don't think I would have been able to do that unless I had the experience. And I love that I now do. And I'm like, hey, I've been through it. And now I can teach you what I've learned. And then also growing these two brands that we have as well. And we want to exit them, which is really exciting to be able to, because I never thought, like, when I launched a company that I would sell it. And it's really cool that, like, you can scale something, and if that's what you want, you can do. I mean, of course, not everyone wants to do that, but having that as an option is also amazing to strive for something and an end goal. So yeah, just running these two businesses and helping as much as I can in Ecom Capital, and I love what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it's amazing addition to have you inside of the community and have you inside of the team. And I think the one thing that I really enjoy about like what you bring to the team as well is like similar to a lot of the most of the team members. Actually, it's either they have built and grown their own e-commerce businesses. They've been working on businesses very similar to what we are doing for the last 5-10 years. So I think it's a really like purpose-driven community of people that all want to achieve the best for our clients. So it feels great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your vision, the things you've worked on, the skills you've learned. I've learned a lot from this. I'd like to just know lastly, like what were some of the highest moments? Because we often talk about the low points and the pain, the struggle, all the bad things, and there's so many of those things. But what were some of the highlights of building and growing and then eventually kind of like exiting out of SASH Beds into Ecom Capital now?
I mean, I think a bigger highlight was obviously selling it, even though at the time it was quite stressful. Like that is, like I keep saying, how often does that happen?
Yeah.
It was such a highlight to just be like, people believe in my vision and they want to take it to like where I want to take it. I think that
validation.
was massive validation that I'm like, I'm onto something. Like my little idea, my little cute idea has just become this. And the people I was able to learn from, I don't think I would have ever been able to have access to those people.
Very true.
That was definitely a highlight. I think another highlight was like the customers having and the dogs having such a good experience. Like we have thousands of 5-star reviews. And I think that I also think SASH Beds work so well because we cared so much about the product and the experience. That was definitely a highlight. Like the Instagram messages, the influencers constantly posting, just seeing how much people loved it, being featured on some massive publications. I also think like that first container coming was such a highlight. And then a few months later, a 40-foot container coming and us emptying the bed, being in there, going and seeing like the beds from my house to the monstrous warehouse that we have. Like it honestly, it's like my dream came true. That SASH Beds is my dream brand and I built it and I was able to take it to a place I never thought I could take it. And so many people in Australia now have the bed and probably worldwide will in a few years. And I think that's a highlight to think like my little idea became something so big. It's cool.
So inspiring.
So cool.
So inspiring. And I think it's also just like testament to like anyone listening. It makes me a bit emotional actually, like just because I know like the transformation that you went through and I've seen and observed so many of the things that you went through to get there. But it's really, really special because I think that for people listening, like they might have an idea, that maybe just seems worthless or it maybe seems like, oh, this is just nothing, but like watching and observing and seeing what you went through and seeing like the transformation of you from like a 9-to-5 worker to this, it's just like, it's insane, ultimately it's taking your idea from your head and then being able to deliver it to the market in a way that people love.
Yeah.
And it's such a special concept. Yeah.
I think it is like it sucks that people doubt themselves so much because I'm like, I know everyone, if you just put in the work and believed in yourself or believed in your vision, like you probably could do it. It's not as if I don't have these, I mean, sure, now I understand how to run an e-commerce business or how a business operates, but I didn't have some skills that like I was born with. Maybe I was like a little bit better at the creativity part, which I love. But most things can be taught. And I honestly think it's like coming back to self-belief. So I think anyone can do it. Like it's not as if I had a massive amount of money to start or had this massive skill. Like sure, I had support. And there was other people that didn't support me that were like, oh, this is a great idea, but like you have a job, your stable job. Why would you do that? Like, how about if you fail? Just so much doubt. And I'm like, I'm not listening to you, like whatever. So I think the biggest thing is like, guys, you can do it. If I can, honestly, anyone can. I'm not book smart. I didn't go to uni. I don't have all these great skills that other people, I've learnt them through hard times, but anyone can learn them. If I can, anyone can.
Yeah, really, really powerful. I appreciate this a lot. I feel like I've learned a lot about you, and it's been very interesting. Even pacing back through, the story of what was, because I feel like, and I hope in a way it has been for you as well, because I know sometimes we get so caught up in like what's next and where we're going and what's the next thing and what we're doing next year, etc. So sometimes to kind of like almost like think back and re-experience some of those things, it can be like cathartic in a way, and like release, oh wow, that was actually really good.
For sure.
I hope it's.
And I think one last final thing, even thinking back to like me messaging a CEO of this big company, or me messaging all these influencers, most people would not have even messaged them because they would have been scared of the no.
Yeah.
And I honestly hardly got any no's because I was not afraid to ask.
Yeah.
So I think also people are just so scared to ask, and they think the worst that's going to happen. And I'm like, I was just like so confident. I'm like, they're going to reply. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah.
And it's like, just take that leap.
Thank you. Take the leap of faith. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
I was going to shake your hand, but I'll give you a kiss off camera. So
Well, thank you. It's been great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good.